Well, I'm delighted to welcome our panellists. Please join us on stage, and then I will ask you to introduce yourselves. This panel, we really want to get into the weeds of what brands and agencies need to know about CTV advertising. Huge amount of excitement in the growing channel, but as I said on the previous discussion, it can be a very complicated and complex ecosystem to navigate. So Zach, can you please introduce yourself, who you are, where you work, and we'll go down the line.
Hi everyone, I'm Zach Belmont. I'm Vice President for International Programmatic Revenue at Paramount, so I'm working predominantly across our direct-to-consumer streaming business. Think Paramount Plus, Pluto TV, but also internationally in the EU markets we're repping Sky Showtime, so lots of premium streaming inventory across FAST, AVOD, SAVOD, you name it.
Excellent, thank you.
Hi guys, Ben Orford here from LG Ad Solutions. LG Ads brings LG Electronics' 165 million global TVs together with our proprietary ACR data and captivated audiences to enable smarter media planning and buying for our agency and brand partners.
Hello, my name is Catherine Lofthouse. I'm the client partner for all of the global biddable media at Dentsu.
Hi everyone, I'm Alex. I'm the Programmatic Director at Sign Digital. We're a global independent agency specializing in live entertainment and sport.
Hi everyone, I'm Khaled. I'm a Senior Manager of Client Services at StackAdapt. For those who are not familiar with StackAdapt, it's a demand-side platform that enables advertisers to launch different number of channels and their campaigns across the channel.
Excellent, thank you panellists. So the first question I'd like to put to all of you, but I know we've scripted it to go in a certain direction. Catherine, how easy is it for agencies at the moment to really plan and buy CTV advertising?
Look, it's easier than it's ever been, but there's still a long way to go. We obviously want to make sure that we are as integrated as possible, and that integration, I really don't think that it's there yet to give us that sort of full funnel experience for data and full accessibility to all of the inventory that we really want to get hold of. I do think it's changing. Is it changing quick enough for the appetite for our clients? Well, it never is. But we are on that journey, and we are obviously partnering as much as possible to facilitate that sort of ease of transition, particularly for those sort of legacy TV buyers transitioning into the space.
Perfect. Okay, and Alex, from your side of the fence, I know you deal with lots of brands as well that are increasingly trying to spend more in CTV environments.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I completely agree. It's easier, but I wouldn't necessarily say that it's easy, right? I think as programmatic buyers and planners, we're quite greedy, right? We've got CTV, other video formats, display, audio, out of home. And to really grasp all the different facets of each of those is incredibly difficult, right? There's so much to it. All different acronyms involved in CTV, the list is as long as my arm, right? So for me, it's easier though because of all the plugins now with the DSPs that we're using on a day-to-day basis, all different partners in the space as well, right? They're there to educate agencies and to help us educate our clients and brands as well.
Oh, we haven't scripted this, but I'd love to ask you as well. Zach, one of the largest CTV supply sources in Europe at the moment. How do you find it when your teams are speaking to agencies? Is there a lot of uncertainty around best practices and how they can be targeting streaming audiences?
I think it depends on which markets we're talking about. Of course, UK, Germany, US, very advanced CTV ad buying markets. But then just to kind of build on what Catherine was talking about, there's an incredible amount of supply in market. There's new entrants. Of course, we've heard about Tubi launching in the UK market as well. We've got Prime Video now entering the market. So I'd actually say that, yes, programmatic is easier to activate, to buy holistically across multiple different supply sources, but it's become incredibly more fragmented. There's so much choice. I would actually say there's an overabundance of supply out there. And so for a buyer looking to deliver unique reach at scale, this is where the difficulties come in. This is where some of those initiatives around supply path optimization, omni-channel buys, converged media buys really come into play, because without that, how are you meant to efficiently address your audience across so many different viewing experiences unless you can join it all up together? So easier, but also a little bit difficult in terms of the troubleshooting, right? Lots of PMP, PG deals, you think they work straight out of the box. Unfortunately, they don't tend to. There's privacy signals, there's data signals, there's varying DSP, SSP integrations that aren't like joined up across the board. And as a result, you've got miscommunication, you've got different partners providing different signals, and that just breaks delivery at the end of the day. So we need to standardize, is what I mean to say.
No, absolutely. Thank you for that. And Ben, I know LG Ads, one of the biggest TV OEMs in the world. Are your teams speaking to traditional TV advertisers, or is it digital teams, or is it a real mix when you're out in market speaking to potential customers?
The marketplace is fragmented, as Zach was just saying, when it comes to actually the inventory sources. But in terms of actually how you can find people who want to buy the inventory, right, it's difficult. It can be the AV teams, it can be the programmatic teams, sometimes it's the digital teams. You know, we have a couple of formats available which are both available programmatically, or traditional CTV video spot, which is effectively delivered across our fast channels, very much like linear, and then our home screen ad unit, which we've also opened up to programmatic demand. That is a fairly unique format, which is a little bit like a digital display unit, and who actually buys that differs by agency.
Fair enough. Okay. And what about some of the functionality, the benefits? So when Khalid, you work at one of the most sophisticated demand-side platforms in market, right? We saw a great presentation from one of your colleagues, Ed, earlier. But what are some of the benefits that your teams are talking to advertisers about when it comes to streaming inventory?
So I think one of the benefits of using CTV is the fact that you can incorporate your CTV within an omni-channel approach and actually incorporating your messages across your whole media mix. So I think one point that Ed mentioned earlier, so launching on CTV only obviously will give you like probably 10% reach, but following this up with different channels can increase this to about 80% reach. So there is the element of using all the different data points to have a clear storytelling, have a clear sequential messaging from what you're actually pushing on your CTV, and then actually following this through with your different consumer. Like I think there are a lot of talks earlier today on the attention stage about making sure to give your customer an immersive experience and actually give them a reason to resonate with the brand. So using CTV in a way that is incorporated with your wider media mix can push that narrative. And the truth is, if you launch one single ad on CTV only or on display only, it's not going to push anything. So it's really about enabling advertisers to incorporate like a more sophisticated media channel.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you. And Catherine, I know you and I have discussed this before, but the brands that you deal with, are they getting excited about CTV because that's where the audiences are, or are they getting excited about the targeting now that streaming offers to them that maybe traditional linear didn't?
Yeah, look, it's a mix of both. As so often we say, but it really is. We all watch CTV. Where's linear? It has a diminishing place, and that trend is obviously only going to continue. I don't know about exciting marketers, but it certainly is a fundamental proposition that they know they need to tap into. For us as advertisers, obviously, we need to be able to deliver that, but deliver it in a way that also couples all of the data that increasingly brands are expecting. I mean, we're fortunate enough to have these emerging propositions with, path to purchase and retail data, decoupled, owned or otherwise, making their way into the fold. We know that obviously there's a lot going on in that space. I think we might touch on it in a bit, but it is our job, right, to make sure that we can excite our brands about the necessity of being in those digital TV spaces by showing them that value.
Yeah, okay. And Alex, does that kind of resonate with what you see from your side of the fence and the conversations you're having with brands also? Yeah,
definitely. I think for us, we're kind of looking at there being three key reasons, right, as to why we need to be including CTV within our media plans for our clients. The first reason is, as you've said, it's where the users are. So I think about 2/3 of households in the UK have access to a CTV. If we're going to look at how CTV is going to mature in the US, that's 90%. So there's huge room for growth still in the UK. That's going to continue to grow in the next couple of years. The second reason is because it's the biggest device in the household. We want to get, as live entertainment clients that we work with, they've got these cinematic-like trailers. They deserve to be on the biggest screen in the household, so we need to make sure that happens. CTV is a perfect avenue to do that. And then the third reason, kind of coupling on or going on to what Khalid was mentioning before, is about omni-channel and the accessibility now to include CTV within a campaign where you're re-exposing those viewers to other formats. And recent research by Magnite shows that your 72% of respondents are saying that if they see an ad on CTV, they're more likely to purchase if they're seeing an ad on other devices, such as mobile display, to follow that up.
That's great to hear. So, but again, a lot of that is only possible because of the increased amount of data that's available to... Okay, and Zach, I know, again, you and I have discussed this before, but for the audience that may not be familiar with CTV advertising, at a high level, can you maybe just kind of articulate some of the targeting parameters that are available these days?
It's a really important point that you've raised there, and I think we've talked a bit about the transparency of data, the wide availability of data. That's really what differentiates CTV supply across the board compared to TV, compared to digital. There's just an abundance of signals that the buyer can then discern what user they want to buy, what content they want to be across, what device they're delivering across. Basically a multitude of content metadata, technical data, that all allows you to make a more informed decision. But with that, you can leverage first-party data. You can have more efficient media buys across the board. So we're in a space where there's even more data available now than there ever once was. But what we need is consistency across the publishers. Not all publishers have the same privacy view of what they should and shouldn't be sharing. And I think that makes it difficult for the buying community right now who want to compare apples to apples, but don't necessarily get the same data points through.
And that's fair enough. Is that because some streaming services will be quite guarded around their data? They won't let third parties measure, some will. So again, if you're a buyer, to get that overarching holistic view, it can be quite difficult sometimes.
Yeah, we run peer set reviews with all of our SSPs, of course anonymized, but it's very interesting to understand how we as a business, Paramount, across Pluto TV, Paramount Plus, and all of our other long-form and short-form video offering, what we are sharing in market versus our competition. And it's interesting to know that varying providers have different takes on it. Some won't share IP. Others are a bit more guarded around IP address. Maybe they want to truncate some of that data in order to remain compliant. It's all a case of privacy, tech privacy teams at the moment, and their interpretations on how to toe the line correctly.
Yeah. Okay, and that's fair enough, right? Because it's super valuable, has to be extracted in a privacy compliant way. Ben, obviously in the last session with Andy, we touched upon ACR data, but going back to ACR data, for an OEM, it's such a powerful source of information, right, to share with advertisers to help give them much more transparency around what's actually happening behind the glass of the TV. Is that something that's kind of front and center of all of the conversations that you're having with advertisers at the moment?
Yeah, no, absolutely. People are obviously, I'm sure, listening to Andy talk about ACR. ACR, automatic content recognition, enables us to effectively profile viewers based on their consumption habits across linear TV, whatever's plugged in by the HDMI, so that's dongles, set-top boxes, games consoles, etc. So brands and agencies are super excited by the capabilities. At a top level, we can look at TV viewership, so channel viewership. We could go a little bit more granular there. Wimbledon starts this week, so we'll have segments which buyers and agencies will be able to activate around Wimbledon viewership. Beyond that, we have things like the games console side of things, so actually knowing what games console is plugged in and then what game they're playing. So is this household a Call of Duty gamer? That helps us infer things like Gen Z audiences and whatnot. So lots of actionable data that our brands and agencies can make use of. And then, of course, there's the measurement piece.
Yes.
The measurement piece, insights, actionable post-campaign measurement. So, incremental reach reporting. If you've got a brand who invests heavily across linear, they may want to, they may need to go back to, for example, a CMO and prove to the value of CTV, which is effectively enabled by the ACR data by saying we have reached X amount of people who we didn't on linear.
That's amazing. So again, effectively, what you're talking about is the sight, sound, and motion of the biggest screen in the household, but with a lot of privacy-compliant first-party data that can enable the type of targeting that brands have been used to in digital advertising, right?
Correct, yeah. I mean, we're talking about 7.3 million addressable devices in the UK.
That's fantastic.
All opted in to be tracked via advertising, to be opted in to be advertised to, and then B, to be tracked via ACR, so privacy compliant.
Okay,
Cookie-less.
perfect. Thank you for that. And a question for our buy-side friends. obviously, again, going back to the acronyms, we've been talking about FAST, we've been talking about AVOD, I think Ed was talking about SVOD and TVOD as well. How important is the different types of streaming inventory for advertisers? Do they just ask to target audiences on CTV, and then your job within the agency is to decipher the inventory landscape? Or are they asking for specific delivery types of inventory? I mean, are people saying we want more FAST versus AVOD or vice versa? Catherine, maybe we'll start with you from a Dentsu POV.
It's very brand dependent.
Okay.
Is it linked to age? Yeah, partly, I think for sure. But particularly with FAST, I mean, I think there's a lot of preformed opinions about that. I mean, in Cannes, for example, a large TV supplier was speaking about how they were giving away TVs, and they had an expectation that their audience would be, lower household incomes, maybe families, and they found quite the opposite. People love free stuff, right?
Yep.
So I think even if there are kind of requests from our client, these predispositions, we're in such an emerging landscape that we need to look at the facts and look at the data and see what it tells us. Increasingly, what we can derive, as we've just been speaking about, through our data points, our touch points, building that map of what's actually happening with CTV, I think we have a few surprises on the way. But as long as we are in a position to capitalize on those, learn from them and be agile, we can all win.
Yeah, perfect. And Alex, is that from your side of the fence as well?
Yeah, I think it is. I think with a lot of the entertainment brands that we work with, CTV as a concept is still quite new to them. They're used to serving across linear, and I think there's still probably for them is a little bit of nervousness around certain types of CTV inventory, which necessarily isn't deemed as being as premium as others. But I think it's almost going back to what we did in programmatic years ago,
Yep.
and going from that publisher-led approach to that audience-led approach is what it's all about now, I think. And that's where CTV is moving to. And things like ACR tech and the data that we're able to get through that is what's going to be key, I think, to us building that trust with our clients as to where they need to be serving and hitting the right
that
user.
makes sense. Thank you for that. And Khalid, again, stack adapt, screen agnostic DSP. How important is it for brands to think about CTV as part of a bigger activation? So not to buy in isolation, but the role that CTV can play to support a broader media plan.
I think it's extremely important. So I think there is a point to be made about the importance of your actual branding campaign. So for example, if you are a performance-based advertiser, there is an extreme importance of you having the right branding for you to actually convince a consumer to go down the funnel. So actually incorporating CTV in your media plan is something that advertisers need to push quite hard into their activation. But there are a lot of consideration that comes into play. So I think, as Catherine mentioned, it is very brand dependent. So some brands may have a product that needs a bit longer consideration time. Say, for example, it's a property or an everyday item. So the actual approach of how you incorporate CTV into that media mix can differ massively, and can differ massively whether you want to reach younger audiences, older audiences, or like different households as well. So it is increasingly important, and I think the fact that CTV spend in the US, for example, is increasing massively. So I think over the past year, 1/3 of TV buys have been through CTV. Is quite telling of where the industry is going and that increased demand as well.
Perfect. Thank you for that context. That's really helpful. And then from a performance advertiser point of view, again, something we touched upon in the last discussion with Andy, but and this is a question for all of you, by the way. Are you seeing more performance-related advertisers wanting to advertise on CTV? If you are, how do they think about attribution? Is that QR code-based again? Or are you seeing kind of advancements in that area to do something else when it comes to the interactivity of ads and the shoppability of those ads? Zach, we'll start with you.
Sure. We've actually been seeing a real shift in the way that advertisers are approaching shoppability, like within CTV. So, yes, the QR code, that's kind of been prevalent for quite a while now.
Yep.
I'm not sure about the group out here and what their experience is like with QR codes, but to be honest, in my experience, QR codes tend to not get the engagement. You don't seem to get the scans. It doesn't convert into funded, registered users. So something there isn't 100% right. I think we need a better format. And actually, one that we've explored as part of the CMT Awards in the US is ShopSense AI, which provides a much more interactive capability, integration within the show, so you can actually buy clothes that people are wearing at the awards, for example. You can really interact with it and understand more. The other side of it is leveraging more interactive CTV ad capabilities. So imagine if you're an automotive company and you want to drive not funded registrations, but you want to get sign-ups for test drives. Well, what if you could explore further within the ad, say within a pause ad environment, skip through a couple of slides, watch a couple of trailers, and then push towards signing up. So taking it to your device, putting in your details, and actually creating a lead for that dealership itself. This feels like the evolution beyond the QR code, in my opinion, and is definitely what most advanced television is meant to be there to deliver. It's about that interactivity. We haven't really had it up until now, but there are plenty of tech providers in the ad format space that are providing that capability, and we're actually offering it as part of some of our more 360 deals, where we want to provide the actual advertiser more performance of the back end. I've also worked with a couple of very performance-heavy advertisers, like Grammarly, for example. Their whole model is built on getting registrations, and they have a very interesting view when it comes to attribution and actually understanding the impact of doing more top-of-the-funnel, big screen advertising. So
that's great to hear.
We're seeing a change. Typically, brand advertisers reign supreme, but the DR side of things is making its way into the space.
That's fantastic. And if we can collectively unlock that, there's so much budget on the sidelines that can help to grow the overall pie of TV advertising revenue, not just transitioning those linear TV ad budgets into addressable. Ben, from your side, how is LG Ads thinking about, shoppability of ads, attribution, supporting maybe smaller advertisers or DR-based advertisers?
Yeah, I don't think. I agree with what Zach is saying on the QR code. Right, I don't think it's necessarily going to go away. I think there needs to be an education piece with clients, right? So agencies and media owners need to do that. We aren't going to see a scam rate at the same level as a click-through rate, right? But if someone is someone's scanning on a QR code, they're demonstrating a pretty decent level of intent, right? There perhaps needs to be a value exchange, So is there a potentially 10% off or something if you scan this QR code? You're asking someone to get their phone out and effectively scan that and then go on to do some. Let's see. We're obviously exploring different ways. It depends on the advertiser. For our media and entertainment advertisers, so streaming services like Zach and Paramount, we have a mobile measurement platforms like Kachava, which it's all predicated on the ad ID. We're able to track whether or not someone's gone on to subscribe or launch the app, or what they've done on the app based on whether or not they've been exposed to an ad or not. So this is something that a lot of our media and entertainment partners are starting to leverage. Beyond that, for generic brand advertisers, shoppability is going to be a big thing, I think, in the coming months and years. Interactivity with the remote, that will be interesting. LG has the magic remote. Is there an opportunity there to do something with that? Let's see.
Yeah, no, that's great to hear. And Catherine, when a brand lands a brief on your desk and says, I want DR on CTV, do you say, oh no? Or do you say, yes, this is a great opportunity?
Well, because it increasingly is. I'd like to touch on a couple of the points that were really excellently made here. Because people's relationship with their TV has changed, and I think it might be quite valuable for us to just delineate between sort of your pre-roll, where you might see that QR code, and then your more kind of dynamic and your more modern kind of TV experience, where that click is a lot more accessible and it's a lot more appropriate in that landscape. I think what's really important is that we think about the ecosystems that we buy in. We as agencies are in a very privileged position to be able to educate and direct our clients to the ecosystems that deliver the most value. If they want a performance campaign, we all know that Amazon's got the goods on that. The question is, how broad can we get that inventory, and how applicable can we get the measurement, targeting, or any other data signal that we want into it? Increasingly, the answer is we can get quite a lot.
That's encouraging to hear. Alex, is that similar from your side, or slightly different POV?
Yeah, it's very similar. I think it's all about testing as well, right? There so many new different ways of attributing CTV performance, whether that's IP address matching, for example, which we work with a partner quite closely with to achieve that for some of our clients that we work with. And we're seeing the omni-channel approach, to go back to that again, as really helping mature CTV within a full funnel strategy as well. And we see people who've been re-exposed to a CTV ad through mobile display, clicked and come to site, looking on GA, they drive a 50% higher engagement rate than paid social ads through Meta. Which I think for a lot of people, TV, surely not. That's a bit mind-boggling.
Yep.
But, it's clearly maturing and improving, and I think it's only going to play much more of an important part in our lower funnel mix as well as that upper funnel media mix moving forwards.
Perfect. And Khalid, from a programmatic point of view, lots of customers want to use StackAdapt to find streaming audiences in a programmatic way. I'm assuming, and I might be wrong, but lots of those will want some kind of tangible performance metric. How do you think about that, and how does StackAdapt approach that mindset from clients?
Yeah, I mean, that's always the problem with programmatic, or the challenge with programmatic, actually proving that performance point. Yeah. So there is a point to be made with CTV that the actual data that's available has improved massively when we compare it to 18 months ago. So I 100% agree with all the points raised here, but also I think now with the rise of ACR tech, for example, but also with more data available in the bit stream across all the different SSPs, from a StackAdapt perspective, we are able to ingest some of this data, whether it's like device IDs from smart TVs themselves, or even if the user is actually using OTT on the mobile devices or on the laptops. So there are more data available to us where, from a DSP perspective, it's something that can be ingested into our audience graph, for example. So attribution on TV is now becoming, on CTV is now becoming a thing, and there is the element of us being able to kind of measure what the user's behavior having been exposed to a CTV ad. So that doesn't necessarily mean that a user will see a CTV ad and then convert the next day or go to the website and make like a large purchase, but it also means that enabling things like brand left surveys or footfall attribution, and actually having that understanding of how your CTV ad is impacting, and also a really good point about the test and learn as well, just making sure that all the data that you're getting in, making sure to adapt your CTV ads moving forward. But attribution is becoming a thing. It's still quite fragmented. We still need more data, but it is moving in the right direction.
Perfect. And as we wrap up, I've just got one quick question again for each of you. Zach, what advice would you give to an advertising agency evaluating the CTV supply ecosystem in Europe at the moment? Again, high level, Ben, then I'll come to you, and Catherine, obviously slightly different approach from your side.
I'd just go back to my initial point when I started. Yes, it was a little negative, but I think it's a almost cautionary tale. There's an overabundance of supply in market. There's a lot of new entrants in market. And as buyers, you need to be incredibly discerning about what you are accessing, knowing exactly which publishers that you're buying. There's a lot of, no offense, but long-tail CTV publishers out there. If you dig into the content that they're offering, it's not necessarily the most premium. And this is where supply path optimization, buying directly from OEMs, from publishers, will stand you in good stead. You'll know exactly where you're delivering. You'll get that transparency in terms of post and mid-campaign reporting. And you can feel assured that you're across premium, like high-quality, broadcast quality television and movies.
Perfect. That's great advice. Thank you, Zach. Ben, from your side, what would you recommend to the agencies and brands?
I mean, Zach's nailed the point there. I think auditing, the inventory and the quality of the content, right, across our portfolio of channels on LG channels, it's all professionally produced content, right? There's no user-generated content, so inherently it's going to be brand safe. I would also say, what's your OEM strategy, right? Are you actively engaging with the various OEMs in market? Are you aware of the data and the capabilities that they have to target audiences, especially if you're already a linear buyer? Is there an opportunity there to leverage the OEM to move beyond that? So, yeah.
Perfect. And Catherine, everyone is trying to pitch advertising agencies today for CTV ad budgets. What 2 or 3 pieces of advice would you give to a streaming service when they come knocking on your door or sending you an email, for instance?
Yeah, integrate, decouple your data as much as possible. I know it's not a very popular conversation, but it's a very valuable tool for us to be able to create that holistic, omni-channel view that we've been talking about so much and really bring it to reality.
Perfect, thank you. And Alex, again, when somebody's pitching for your ad budgets, or
Yeah, you've got integrate, but also we're in a week of an election as well, right? So let's say education is really important as well.
Perfect. And lastly, Khalid, what advice would you give to an agency looking to select a DSP or a programmatic buying platform, specifically in the CTV space?
So, I mean, I would say a DSP that does all of this, really. But I think I can go on forever about having a DSP that's more intuitive and like helps you achieve your CTV campaigns. But if I would summarize it into two things, I think that the educational piece is probably one of the most important things. So I think one learning from today's panel, for example, is that the CTV landscape is quite challenging, and it's really hard for an agency to get the full grasp of it. So having a partnership with an ad tech that actually educates your brand, educates the advertiser to reach the right strategy is probably the most important thing, and to safeguard them for the future as well.
Perfect. And one word from each of you that describes the CTV ecosystem in 2024. Zach.
Burgeoning.
Nice. Ben.
Fragmented.
Lovely.
Opportunity.
Alex.
Mad.
I would say growing.
I love that. Thank you very much, panelists. That was a great conversation. Thank you.